So bought the machine about 5 years ago. It was a fully operational tyne machine with knife point tyne setups. Bought it from another farmer locally and always wanted to do a disc machine conversion. And anyway, so long and behold, we found the Ryan NT disc units, and yeah, never going back. They're an absolute brilliant thing. Bolted virtually straight up once we had everything ready to roll. And existing spring units on the machine, didn't have to change any of that. Just a basic modified shank, and everything else fit together perfectly. So absolutely love the design, love the ease of use, low maintenance, absolutely fantastic. And talk about price point, fantastic, you know. Cheap old bar, 10% of the price of a commercially available disc machine, straight off the shelf, and does every bit of the same job. Absolutely love it. Yeah, so having run parallelogram disc machines years ago, we discovered that as per a lot of disc setups, so much maintenance involved. Bearings, moving parts, springs, everything you could name. Because everyone's tried a different design, obviously, and yeah, some great units out there, but lots of maintenance to go with them. And anyway, so come to find these to be nothing but a few shots of grease and taking a few spaces out as the discs wear. That's all the maintenance requires. I bloody love it. Yeah, so we do mostly no-kill cropping with this machine, so it's dry sowing, mostly through red dirt out here. A little bit of clay stuff and a fraction of sandy stuff, but not much. 6,000 acres on these discs so far, and these are original, so they've done 3 seasons now and virtually worn out and ready for a new set of discs. But yeah, it's mostly a dry sown stuff, can be used for pasture cropping in the wet country. With a set of press wheels behind the machine too, and that'll get the job done there. But yeah, it just set up like this for dry sowing with no kill currently. Not a hope in hell. This is us, mate. This is us for the future. Yeah, so from previous disc machine experiences, we always had a rear boot design. So we always fed seed, fert, anything you're applying in from the back side of the cut, behind the cutting edge of the discs. When we found the Ryan NT units, they had a front boot design. It was the first time we'd ever done anything in the front boot area ever. Never seen it before. Very sceptical about how it'd work. And I tell you what, now we've had them, there's no way anything's going in the back at all. It's all coming in the front. It's absolutely fantastic. Wouldn't go back. The 2 blockage issues is a really big one, especially going through a lot of trash, as we do with no kill. We're running through a lot of material, so you have a fair bit flicking up, rolling around with the disc sort of back at the boot, if that makes sense. So being at the front, well, obviously you've got the discs being essentially a big block for any trash to end up back up that boot. So that's the biggest one by far, because the other ones, you know, that always block up all the time. Seed placement, fantastic, because you're actually taking advantage of that initial cut. And with no kill, we're not cutting a big slot at all because we're dry sowing all the time. We can make that cut and get the seed down in the cut as it opens. That's very, very precise. Yep, so a couple of the biggest things with this conversion has been speed. Fantastic compared to what this machine used to run at with tynes on it. You know, she was a 6 or 7 k/h machine, and that was still rough enough on the gear. We've bumped that with the Ryan NT units up to every bit of 10 kilometres an hour, and on some smoother country with less trash to cut through, or even up to the 12 k's and covering a lot of area. We're on 11.5-inch spacings on this machine, only because we couldn't quite get the 12 to work with the amount of rows we've got on this particular machine. But anyway, we're 11.5. Fuel consumption. So here's the big one. Originally, we were doing a couple of trials with this machine when it was still a tyne unit. We've got a 160 horsepower tractor that actually sits on the front of this machine, particularly, and we've cut fuel usage down to an extraordinary amount. We essentially have a heap of wheels rolling along the ground in a dry sowing no kill scenario, so we're not using a lot of fuel, and we're now down to around the 15 litres an hour, covering nearly 10 hectares an hour. So we're very, very impressed with the economic savings of having these units on board. So we're just having a bit of a look at some late sown oats here that we used the Ryan NT discs to sow. A little bit hard to see. We had a bit of a failed grain result this year and due to lack of moisture. So it all got grazed off a couple of times. Little butts of the oats still here. The biggest thing we were just talking to Paul about was the fact that we run through all this country twice this year with the Ryan discs. First on the initial cereal crop that failed, and then back again to oversow oats for a bit of feed when it was drying up. The biggest impressive thing we were just talking about is the fact of the no disturbance. You're struggling to see the rows in this paddock. We've run through, gone straight over the top of the grassland, haven't touched the grassland, introduced a heap of new plants here that weren't here before, utilised that in a bad, poor rainfall year, brought the livestock on, great results with all of that, haven't had a cereal cropping success, but it doesn't have to be, can be again next year, we'll try again. Hopefully a bit more rain, but yeah, the biggest plus here for us is there's just been no disturbance. We've had some rain come through, and as you can see, we've got feed coming up for the animals. And the place we've run over and introduced another plant into hasn't changed the paddock whatsoever. Absolutely, yeah. So all this was just bunged in. It's literally just seed. So we're throwing seed and a bit of diesel at it, using the Ryan NT machinery. There's nothing more. There's no fertilisers, no chemicals. It's just going straight in the grassland. Get the result we get. We've used it. It's been fantastic for this season, and the comparative cost to conventional cropping, it just wouldn't have been worth it at all. Looking at some rows of oat stubble here, there's not much left as it's been grazed off heavily a couple of times. There are actually rows here. There's 11.5-inch rows right there following my hands. The impressive thing to show is that hasn't left an impact in the paddock whatsoever. We've brought our plant in, we've grown it, it's come up, we've used it, and the butts of it's all starting to decompose back into organic matter for the soil there now, and we haven't stuffed the paddock at all. No compaction issues, no hair pinning, can't even find the rows hardly. Very impressed.